Welcome back to Empirical Evidence. This is Annie. On our last talk, I covered 6 points. The human soul is the house of energies. People's soul have different energies. Soul energies and desires interconnect to relate to depression. Desires are controlled by the forces we engage with and the relationships we have. Forces are not the name for God or the central intelligence people call God. Forces work for the divine one. They are many and they all have a different purpose. But in the end, it really is about expanding consciousness, because consciousness helps us to remain interconnected with the path of peace. It helps us to remain interconnected with our truest selves. It helps us to remain faithful to self-love and appropriate other love, which means we stay as a community. To stay as a community, you must first recognize the communities that share your energy field. Depression is an energy. It's not caused by one force, and it does not represent the force or the central intelligence. Depression represents incongruence inside the human body, incongruence inside a person with an external energy field. Depression exists in you when your own forces become unaligned. Yeah, you do need to be aligned to your forces, because we're all spiritual and we were all born into a community of forces. When you step out of that community of forces, you become susceptible to a vibrational change. That vibrational change is registered as chemical change in the human mind and in the human body. And when that force, that energetic force that surrounds people, some people call it an aura, some people call it chakras, but either way, it's energy that aligns us with the divine world. When it's off base, you become off base. Depression occurs when forces become unaligned. Pope Francis, a few years ago, called back European Americans to their old world religion. He called them back to their roots. This was a cosmic act of calling back people who have moved away from their roots to regain congruence in order to stop depression. It was an act of love to call people back. Without going into the details of the supernatural world, he simply ushered people to recognize that they needed to re-embrace faith. But not faith as a fundamentalist kind of do this or die, do this or go to hell or Sheol or whatever you want to call that's void. Choose life is what he was saying. You know life by recognizing your roots, your source of origin. Where are your communities of origin? Pope Francis called people back to their roots, but he especially focused on the European American community. But he never said why. He just urged them to come back to their roots. If you study Samsha, you'll find that the majority of America has experienced depression and has experienced mental health illness. A lot of this is because the roots are broken. The roots are broken, and therefore spiritual alliances are also broken. The pathway of the mind, the structure, has been misaligned. So when depression takes over, the spirit of chaos has an opportunity to move in. Pope Francis also warned that the shadow forces were on the rise again. Some called him superstition and old-fashioned. But ask yourself this: is there any time in the last 150 years where there has been so much animosity between groups and so much resources, and still people continue to be depressed and hungry, and we don't seem to be making any progress? Depression is on the rise, and so is chaos. And the only way to correct that is to realign the forces. Now that I've recapped the last topic, I can begin part 2 of series 1.